I'm recording now.
Going live. Kathy, your last name is spelled Vaccari.
Right.
Three, two, one, and we're live.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome once again to Amateur Astronomers Incorporated, also known as AAI, for our weekly Fridays at Home presentations. AAI makes its home at William Miller Sperry Observatory on the campus of Union County College in Cranford, New Jersey. Since the observatory is closed at this time, we're holding our weekly presentations online. Our presenter this evening is AAI member Kathleen Vaccari. Kathy's a longtime member of AAI. She's our Sales and Promotions Committee Chair. She's a qualified observer, meaning she can operate one of the telescopes that we have at our observatory, and is very good with binoculars. The title of her presentation this evening is What's Up? A Down-to-Earth Sky Guide. She gives these presentations on the first Friday of every month to talk about what you can see up in the sky for that month. With that, Kathy, please begin.
The Perseverance rover headed to Mars, ready to ride a column of fire and smoke on its way to the red planet.
And liftoff. As the countdown to Mars continues, the perseverance of humanity launching the next generation of robotic explorers to red planet. And LEDU is going to close the control in by for shortly.
And we have successful separation of Mars 2020 with the Perseverance rover.
We now have an acquisition of signals that years of blood, sweat, and tears from every person who worked on this mission is now realized as Perseverance makes its way to Mars.
Hey, Kathy, there seems to be a issue with the audio here.
Okay, I'm sorry, we are back. Sorry for that little glitch. It wasn't offering me the choices I wanted. Please let me know somehow, folks, if you are not hearing me, but this is the lecture part.
Kathy, we hear you just fine.
And I will ask Mary to text me if she is not hearing me. This is a beautiful picture. We just have to throw the moon in because Cliff does a wonderful job of astrophotography out in his Prineville outdoor observatory. This is actually the bottom half of our spring sky, or summer sky, excuse me. I wanted to bring in two new constellations, but I wanted to keep it simple without showing all the constellations in the sky. I love to help people get over sky chart panic, which means how could I ever pick a constellation? There's a lot you cannot see in New Jersey, but there is a lot you can see. This particular graphic shows quite a lot of stars and their colors. As you can see, there are white. You'll see later off-white, yellow, which is sort of our sun, and goldish, I guess really a flesh-colored. There is one here in a zodiac constellation you may know a lot about called Scorpius. And that star is Antares, and it is a red giant. Interestingly enough, the red stars, and you can read up more about this if you're a beginner, are actually cooler than the blue-white stars, which are really the hottest. Kind of an interesting dichotomy. I mention this area because, first of all, this is where, when you're facing south, you are going to see the planets. You can't miss Jupiter because it looks like a starburst. It's one of those, what's that up in the sky planets? Not far behind it is Saturn, which is really not as bright and just looks like a bright star. So don't let that throw you. But usually a view of that in, your first view of that in telescope really, well, it sets a lot of people on to the hobby of astronomy. It's just marvelous. And when our observatory reopens, we'd be happy to show you that. I did also want to let you know that we've got Libra here, Scorpius. This is actually, this area is within the constellation Sagittarius, which looks like a teapot, a lot of you know. This is Capricorn. All of these constellations you're familiar with because they're best known because they're zodiac constellations. What they do is they follow the path of the sun and pretty much the moon as it moves across the sky. And those zodiac constellations are in that arc, which we call the ecliptic. And so they occupy a pretty special place in the sky. And interestingly enough, the way our solar system is made, all the planets are kind of in the same plane. They are all going to be in that arc. You're not going to see a planet up here by, for example, where the Big Dipper is. It's always going to be along this line. It changes with the seasons. In the winter, this line, which is very low in the sky, it makes it kind of difficult to see things, but you won't miss Jupiter. But generally speaking, in the winter, it is much higher and it's easier to see planets. You just got to wait till they come and get pretty much as high as they're going to get, which is here. A word about Antares, because it's one of my favorite kind of bittersweet stars. It is so reddish or flesh colored because it's a dying star. It's at the end of its life. It's actually blowing its outer layers out, and it's becoming much larger than it used to be. If you put Antares now in the solar system, it would extend to the orbit of Mars. So a wonderful thing to Google is this relative size of stars, because our star is a pretty small star as they go. Now, I wanted to let you know that you're going to see, looking south, and if you happen to have a sky chart, which you can print out of the internet, there's several available. It's hard to actually take a piece of flat paper or your tablet or your computer screen and tell you what's happening in what is essentially a dome over your head in the sky. So what you do, they usually have some sort of directions, is you face south and then put the tablet or piece of paper over your head, and you'll be able to see where the northern constellations are too. I've just made this simple by showing you a half. You can see, obviously, Saturn, Jupiter, and interestingly enough, even though we can't see it, I wanted to let you know that our friend Pluto, which has been demoted to a dwarf planet, and most of us, or many of us, still love as a planet in its own right, is smack in the middle in August, but you can't see it. So anyway, I'm not really sure. Maybe when we start talking after the presentation, somebody can tell me whether in our observatory we actually see Pluto. But anyway, here is an idea of, again, this is where I got the idea for Pluto. This is last week, and it mentions where Pluto is, not visible. It also has that Mars and Moon, also mentions where Jupiter is. And actually it does show where Neptune is. We're not talking about it tonight, but if you have a really sensitive telescope, I know we can see Uranus when it is in the sky and it's not hiding behind the sun. And it is visible. I'll show you in another slide. That is the tiniest green dot, but the fact that you can see green and you can see the dot, it just, it's one of those mind-blowing things. Neptune, which comes across as blue, is a little harder to find. But of course, Saturn and Jupiter are naked eye planets, and Mars will be if you get up in the middle of the night. Here is our simplified rest of the summer sky. I'm doing this because we're really only talking about these constellations. To keep it simple, when you look at an entire star chart, there'll be a lot of other constellations around. But as soon as it gets dark, these are the ones you see first. That's a good hint to how to find your way around the sky. One of the first things you'll see is this not well-known star called Arcturus, and it's in Boötes constellation. Here is pretty much the next thing you'll see, if not the first thing you'll see. This is Vega in the constellation Lyra, and then Deneb, which is in the constellation Cygnus, and then Altair, which is in the constellation Aquila or Aquila. And these are kind of a signpost. They're known as the summer triangle. There's also for winter, a winter triangle set of stars that makes it easy for you to find your way around. But right now we're doing the summer triangle. It is very fascinating to try to find your way around the sky, no matter how well you know it. For example, here we don't have any real detail, but this is where we're finding our planets, Saturn and Jupiter, just so you don't confuse at any point in the summer whether Saturn and Jupiter are there or not. And they switch constellations. We're just talking about August now. But when you see something really bright in the sky and you say, I wonder what that is. I wonder if it's a planet. One thing I do, and a lot of people do, is go to the Big Dipper, and you've got the tail or the handle. You follow that arc, and that will point right to Arcturus. It's one of the brightest stars in the sky, but it can be disorienting if you're looking for something else bright. So I always look for that, no matter what. That really, no matter how well I know the sky, I know I can situate myself. Lyra here, Deneb, and Altair, they're kind of recognizable because Vega is one of the brightest stars in the sky, brighter than these two. That will be very easy to find. Now, one of the things about Lyra, Vega is a very bright star. And this is the constellation, which looks a little like a lyre or a harp, haha. It's also got mythological connotations of a vulture. Vega is really the only thing you'll see very quickly in the sky, but at least you know where you are. Vega is also, for movie buffs, that is the star that presumably had planets around it that was sending extraterrestrial contact in the movie Contact. So that's what Jodie Foster was listening to, something around Vega. It's also going to be our North Star in several thousand years, because our planet, you know, we have it tilting, obviously, but it points to Polaris right now. It doesn't always, because it wobbles in its journey over years and years and centuries around the sun, and it's not always going to point to Polaris. So that'll be nice to have a really bright star like Vega to look at. Also, I want to mention down here, Ring Nebula. When I started, I used to find some of these little things you could find boring, but let me tell you, a Ring Nebula, which is viewable in good binoculars with a tripod and a telescope, is actually towards the end of a star. For example, our sun is going to turn into this after billions of years, not to worry. The tug between the nuclear explosion, keeping everything together, and those forces, and the force of gravity, which is trying to pull the star apart, the nuclear forces get weaker and the outer shell starts to grow, and you're actually left for a very long time in this kind of limbo. And I'm going to show you a picture here. Whoops. There you go. This is the Ring Nebula, and that's exactly what it looks like in our telescopes at Sperry Observatory. And see the little, what's really left inside, and it's going to eventually shrink, and it's going to turn into a white dwarf. So that is where we're going to end up in a few billions of years. But by then, of course, we will find another planet, exoplanet to live in. But we've got time. But that is amazing, just looks like a smoke ring. Over here, you have something that you can see in binoculars. When you're looking in this area, there's no mistaking Vega because it is so bright. It kind of startles you. To the left are these two little dots, and they're called Epsilon Lyrae, and it's called a double double because you are seeing these as one dot. You see this as one dot, if you could see it with the naked eye. This is what you would see with a binocular, and then you need a telescope to resolve it. They're both double. So that's just fascinating. But that little double thing to the left of Vega always gets me in binoculars, and that's why I mention it. The Cygnus down here, over here, is the swan, considered the mythological swan. This is the head, the tail, Deneb, very bright star, and the cross. It has a lot of features. Down here, this is called Albireo, and what it ultimately is up here resolves into two stars, and they are different colors. They are indeed different colors. You can actually see that. It's just a particularly neat thing to see. Aquila, we're not very familiar with that. And Altair, it's not known for anything except B movie or A- movie buffs. That is the star around which the Forbidden Planet, way back when Leslie Nielsen was hot, I'll never forget Altair just because of that particular connection. The circumpolar constellations, let me go back here, keep it simple. You have the Big Dipper and Cassiopeia, and Cassiopeia is one of the new constellations we'll talk briefly about. The Big Dipper, you know how to point at the end of the cup, and it'll point to Polaris, which is the North Star, which is not a bright star at all. Some people feel that it should be the brightest star in the sky, and nothing could be further. As a matter of fact, I've never seen it with the naked eye, so you'd probably need binoculars. But there it is, and then you can keep going and see Cassiopeia. Now, I've mentioned the Big Dipper. That is actually part of the constellation Ursa Major, and Polaris is part of the constellation, or the North Star is part of the constellation Ursa Minor, or the Little Dipper. So this is not actually, this Big Dipper is not actually a constellation. It is, to shamelessly plug our club or website name, an asterism, which is in many constellations a familiar pattern that that people have learned to associate with myths and just learning about the stars. Okay, but here, Cassiopeia and, for example, the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper, since the Earth, or the celestial sphere, all those constellations around towards the middle and the bottom go around and change every, slowly, but every season you have a new bunch of constellations. These remain the same because they are always in the north and they are always viewable. So here is Cassiopeia, which you see, depending on its position and depending on the season, is either a W or an M. Okay, I am just losing my capacity to advance. And oh, here it is. Whoa, 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 whoa. Come on, come on. Yeah, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let me see if I can move. Very good. Here is Cassiopeia. And I think I have to share again. Are you guys getting my screen? You're probably not. So let me do this. We're coming back to you. There we go. Let's see. New share. All right. Let me try to work on this a little better. I'm just going to go back, folks. I'm going to go back to my startup screen and get PowerPoint back. Okay, here we go. Don't worry, I won't make you go through all the music again. I will flash forward. I was having a little trouble with advancing slides. They weren't advancing the way they were the last 30 times I practiced this presentation, but what's Zoom without a little headache? Takes a while for this to come up, but it is coming up. And PowerPoint is starting up. I may have to join Zoom again, but I'm bringing up the PowerPoint. And I will have to do Zoom again. Oh, I am on it. Okay. All right. Let me move down to the slide we're on. We're almost there, folks. Which slide am I on now? Nope, we're a little past that. Yes. And I think we're going to be at Cassiopeia. And hold on, I'm going to do the slideshow from the current slide. Okay, I hope we are back. Sorry for that. Here's Cassiopeia, as I said. There are 5 very bright stars. You can see this with the naked eye easily. Cassiopeia, among other myths, a lot of you already know about the fact that, well, she's shown looking at herself in the mirror. She angered the gods by talking about how beautiful her daughter Andromeda was, and for punishment, she was put in the sky. And the thing is that, for the most part, to match this graphic, she is upside down. So that's what you get for messing with the gods. She was in Clash of the Titans, and there she is, played by Polly Walker, arguing with her husband, Cepheus, who actually is one of those circumpolar constellations that I didn't show you because I didn't want to blow your mind with too many constellations at one time. But actually, he and Cassiopeia and Andromeda is put in peril and saved by Perseus. They are all in that area of the sky. They're not all viewable now, so I'm only giving you the ones that you will see, but they all come together to have, it's sort of a mythological soap opera. But this part of the sky, at least we can start you on it. I have a very modest picture because the costume for Polly Walker was meant to emphasize her great tracts of land for you Monty Python aficionados. But this just keeps to the mythological story. She is very headstrong. Now, the other constellation, not circumpolar, but the other one I wanted to bring up today before we do the meteor showers and end the lecture is this. Actually, this is part of one constellation, and this is Pegasus. And it actually, the Andromeda constellation borrows a star from the edge, and we're not going to get too involved into this because, again, you can see it's just coming up in the east and not kind of overhead at what I like to call prime time, which is, well, we can start at 7 in the winter, but obviously we have to wait till 9 in the summer. This is pretty much the front of the horse Pegasus. Okay, very famous, wonderful horse. And as you can see from here, this is also actually upside down when you see it in the sky. Okay, Pegasus has a marvelous beginning. For those of you who grew up like I did on Fantasia, not the scary parts, we are very familiar with what is actually called the Pegasus section of the Fantasia movie. But it figures very, very well in our, I guess it's going to be the September soap opera when we'll have all of those other constellations ready. But here's Pegasus, here is Perseus, here and here. I guess he's Sam Worthington in the Clash of the Titans, but I didn't want to overdo it. Okay, this is the PG version. What happened with Perseus, the great hero, is he slew the snake lady Medusa, and out from that sprung this beautiful white horse, Pegasus. So there you have part of the whole horse did jump out, but we only have the front of it up in the sky. Now, what we have mentioned before we get into the meteor showers is this is the whole sky for this summer. I figured I could do this to you because we've gone over these zodiac constellations way down here. Also, you can see where our planets are with Pluto not being seen in the middle. Remember the beautiful star Antares? I had something from YouTube prepared to show you, but my computer decided that they didn't like the origin of it. But someone had just done a, I think it was either a binocular or a telescope video of this star, which is, very bright and you can see it, but it also is the one that is the most visible, that twinkles the most. Now, things down at the bottom here are going to twinkle a lot because it's very low and you're going to be looking through a lot of atmosphere. So that's part of why Antares twinkles. But the thing is that you see it twinkling very rapidly with the naked eye when you use an aid like a telescope and binoculars, which, by the way, are the first things that you should get because you can see one star, you put binoculars up and you can see 20 stars. So it's very easy, cheaper than a telescope, and I urge you all to be able to do that. But when you look at Antares, it literally is flashing red, white, and blue. I don't know whether that's sort of an aberration of the lenses you're looking through, but it's just amazing. And this person had it down pat, but I can't show it to you. So anyway, so that my computer doesn't act up more than it has been, we'll leave it at that. Now, remember, we talked about just the things you can see. We talked about the Summer Triangle, there's Vega, Deneb, and Altair. And actually this You know, I used to joke that it's the shady part of any map you see. That's what we're actually supposed to see as the Milky Way. Not in New Jersey, but if you get into a very, very, very dark site, you would be able to see it with the naked eye. But also, if you're looking with binoculars, do look in this area, because this is where you're going to get that star-studded feeling, and you are going to be able to kind of determine some colors of the stars. So it's just a very nice, easy, casual look around, and a very wonderful thing to enjoy the universe with. This is also called the Cygnus Rift. It kind of cuts the what we can see of the Milky Way from where we are, since we're in it, but we're looking out at the rest of it. It kind of separates it into two very long halves, which is just a cool thing to know. All right, and then remember, we did Arcturus. Remember, with all these bright stars down here, you want to make sure that this is what the edge or the end or the tail of the Big Dipper points to. Here is, whoops, here is our new constellation of Cassiopeia. And again, they look like they're very bright stars. This we didn't go into, but this is husband Cepheus. We'll talk about him later. And here is Pegasus. I do want to mention, because towards the end of the month, you will be seeing the long V of the Andromeda constellation. That is where we can actually view the Andromeda galaxy. It's a galaxy we can actually see, not with the naked eye around here, but other places you can. And we'll give you tips on how to find it. But it's just a smudge in a pair of binoculars or a telescope. But the fact that you know that smudge is a galaxy, and you actually, when you look closer, kind of closer to the middle, it's like almost not looking at something dead on. If you want to see it clearly, you sort of look off to the side, and you can actually see the center glowing a little better. And this is, you know, what we're seeing is not even as broad as it is. But like I said, the smudge and the glowing center is all you need. And actually what I do is the bottom half of the long V of the Andromeda constellation, you actually follow it to a bright star here, and then you actually see a fuzzball. And again, Cassiopeia is another constellation that helps us find our way around the sky, because you kind of do down, up, down, and that points to the wonderful galaxy. So we have an Andromeda constellation and the Andromeda galaxy. And that is actually a very small, this is a little larger because this is one of our great astrophotography. I didn't put his picture, but I put him there before. Helder did a wonderful job there. Okay, now moving on, we have a meteor shower. The Perseids. Meteor showers get their names from the constellation that it appears they're coming from. And since meteor showers come from comets or sometimes asteroids from within the solar system, maybe far out, but within the solar system, they're nowhere near the stars. As we know, the only star near our solar system is the sun, our own star. And, you know, stars don't start for light years and light years away. But it just tells you, this Perseus constellation that I told you was waiting in the wings, because he's going to be part of the Cassiopeia Andromeda soap opera, that you have to get up in the middle of the night to see. That is just the constellation it appears that these meteors are coming from. The peak nights, which you will see with a lot of showers, it's actually, this describes it well. When they say Tuesday night, they really mean after midnight going into Wednesday, the 11th into the 12th, and Wednesday into Thursday, the 12th into the 13th. As for a lot of other showers, the peaks are only the peaks. The week before and after peak times, especially for the Perseids, are good for viewing anyway. So don't worry if you've missed your calling on the 11th through the 13th. Some cool facts. They're actually debris crashing from, well, in this case, it's from the comet 109P Swift-Tuttle. Okay, we can name the origin comet or asteroid. It happens to be a pretty good shower. Some showers, you know, sometimes they're hardly worth mentioning. I'm gonna have to check. I forgot to check on the moon phase. If there is a moon up when you're trying to look at anything, but especially the meteor shower here, it does kind of, you know, white out everything else. Sometimes people can kind of put their cell phone or their tablet or their hand to kind of, you know, hide the glare. You could try that. But it's always good to try not to have the moon right in your face. We love the moon, but not during meteor showers. They've got a nice velocity here, 37 miles per second, hitting the atmosphere. And the streaks of light, it's part of the gas left behind, creates superheated plasma and makes for a marvelous, marvelous sight. As I said, I just want to show this because meteor showers, like I said, they're coming from outside the solar system. And the reason we know in August, as with any other meteor shower in any other month, the reason we know we're going to be seeing these things are the comets come and gone. Some comets, like the Neowise, will come every 7,000 years. Halley's Comet, which we're familiar with, comes every 75 years. We're not actually going and seeing the comet, we are seeing the trail, and this graphic is very good, this GIF or GIF. As it goes towards the sun and comes away from it, it starts to melt. And this is the debris trail that it has left. And this doesn't tell you which planet orbit this is. Let's just pick this as the Earth because there's not enough for the whole solar system. It just means that, for example, we could be here in the middle of August and we are hitting that trail, which is just sitting there waiting for us and waiting for us to come back next August and see that beautiful sight. All right, folks, I'm so close to the edge. I don't think I have to worry about any more glitches. This is something my mom said to me. I always like to put it because it's how I feel about the hobby and those of us who enjoy it. And the last thing I want to say is I have no idea what that is, and I couldn't get rid of it, but I did want to mention it so you can stop laughing. Okay, here's the acknowledgements. I pulled this stuff from all over, and if you want to go exploring, there are so many websites that will give you what's happening during the month. NASA, JPL, Astronomy Magazine, Sky and Telescope, and you know, you'll become as crazy as we are. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. I'll turn it over to the audience. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to read them out. Okay, Kathy, there doesn't seem to be any questions. Mary, I'll turn it to you.
Okay, Kathy, thank you very much. So I just want to mention to join us every Friday night at 8 p.m. online. Our presentation next week is going to be Starlink and the Future of Satellite Internet. That's by AAI member Max Watsky. So thank you all for joining us and wishing everyone clear skies, especially this coming week.